Most gardeners think compost alone builds long-term soil carbon, but honestly it doesn't. Standard compost breaks down fast, feeds plants for a season, and then, well, most of that carbon escapes right back into the air. If your soil still dries out quickly, crusts over, or loses fertility every year, this is probably why. You're feeding the crop, not building the soil body. There's a big difference. And the fix isn't more compost, it's stabilized carbon built through controlled ferments that lock nutrients into microbial biomass before they ever hit your beds. One tool that made me realize how badly I was managing this is a simple 4-in-1 soil meter I carry everywhere now. It reads soil moisture, temperature, pH, and sunlight. I started using it when I noticed 2 beds that looked identical were producing completely different yields. Turned out one bed stayed too wet and slightly acidic, which slowed microbial activity and carbon stabilization. This meter caught it instantly. I'll leave the exact one I use in the description if you want to check it out. It prevents small mistakes that quietly wreck soil biology. Why most organic matter never becomes permanent soil carbon. When you toss raw organic matter into soil, microbes explode in activity. That sounds good, but it's chaotic. Bacteria burn through easy sugars and release carbon dioxide fast. Fungi take longer materials but still respire a lot of carbon away. The result is a short nutrient pulse and very little stable carbon left behind. Stable soil carbon forms when microbes process materials slowly under controlled oxygen, moisture, and mineral balance. Their bodies become part of the soil structure. That's microbial necromass, and honestly, it's one of the biggest components of permanent soil carbon. Traditional ferment methods figured this out long before lab soil science caught up. Instead of letting organic matter just rot randomly, they pre-digest it, mineral balance it, and then bury it, where soil biology can convert it into long-lasting structure. I tested this side by side in raised beds for a full growing season. Same crops, same irrigation, same compost base. The beds with fermented inputs held moisture longer, had deeper root systems, and needed less fertilizer by mid-season. The difference wasn't subtle. The first ferment, really changed how my soil holds water. Lactic ferments made from plant waste and carbohydrate sources, well, they create a microbe-rich inoculant that jumpstarts soil biology without the nitrogen burn of fresh material. What I do is mix chopped green waste with diluted molasses, water at about a 1:20 ratio, pack it airtight, and then just let it ferment for about 2 weeks. Buried 20 to 25 centimeters deep, this material doesn't rot the way raw scraps do. It integrates. The soil around those pockets stays darker and more aggregated months later. In sandy beds, I measured moisture retention improving by nearly a full day between watering cycles. That really matters when you're managing multiple beds or containers in hot weather. Fermented bran fixes nutrient drift in heavy-feeding crops, leafy greens and fruiting vegetables. They strip nutrients fast. If your soil swings between rich and depleted, microbes just can't stabilize carbon efficiently. Fermented bran solves that. Wheat or rice bran mixed with microbial culture and a small nitrogen source becomes a slow nutrient buffer once buried. I apply it in shallow trenches between plant rows, about a handful per linear meter, then cover lightly. In tomato beds, this evened out growth and reduced blossom end issues because calcium uptake improved in more stable soil chemistry. This is where pH monitoring really matters. Slight acidity during fermentation is good. Acidic soil long-term is not. That soil meter saved me from pushing beds below optimal range. Liquid ferments accelerate root zone biology. Some soils are biologically sleepy. You can add compost all year and still get sluggish growth. Liquid ferments wake things up fast. I brew plant-based ferments using chopped weeds, water, and a carbohydrate source, loosely covered to allow gas escape. After 7 to 10 days, it becomes a microbial tea rich in metabolites. When diluted to 1 part in 50 and applied as a soil drench, roots really start to respond within just a few days. In my container peppers, I actually saw the root mass increase noticeably when I lifted the plants at the end of the season. But, the real benefit shows up later on. These microbes help convert buried organic inputs into more stable forms instead of just letting them gas off into the air. Mineral-balanced ferments, well, they build structure, not sludge. If your compost turns muddy when it gets wet, you've got a structure problem. Carbon alone, honestly, doesn't fix that. Minerals help microbes form stable aggregates. I like to add a bit of fine rock dust or even some crushed eggshells to my ferments before burial. Not a lot, though. Just about 1 cup for every 20 litres of material. That mineral presence, it really supports microbial processes that bind soil particles together. Raised beds treated this way, they resisted compaction even after some heavy rain. Water actually infiltrated the soil instead of pooling on top. This is one reason why some old farming systems produced such rich soil without any synthetic inputs. They weren't just adding waste, they were building architecture underground. Deep burial changes everything. Most gardeners just top dress. That feeds surface biology, sure, but it doesn't really create those deep carbon reserves. Roots naturally seek those zones. Plants end up becoming more drought resilient since moisture and nutrients are sitting deeper down. And, honestly, hydro growers can adapt this concept too. Fermented inputs, processed into stable extracts, can support microbial inoculants used in bioactive media systems. Now let's fix the oxygen mistake. Earlier, I mentioned a pretty common error. Folks ferment material, then bury it in already waterlogged soil. That, unfortunately, creates anaerobic pockets and those sour conditions you really want to avoid. Ferments need oxygen-balanced soil to finish stabilizing. If soil stays saturated, you stall the process and risk root stress. This is where, simple measurements really beat guesswork. If soil stays above field capacity for long periods, hold off burial or improve drainage first. When I corrected this, buried inputs stopped smelling sour and started integrating cleanly. This is also why, honestly, permanent carbon building is slower but more reliable than those quick compost boosts. So, what changed after a full year of doing this consistently? Soil texture shifted from loose dust to granular crumbs, irrigation frequency dropped, earthworm counts increased, fertilizer inputs decreased, yield stabilized instead of spiking and crashing. In raised beds, lettuce cycles, they were shortened by about a week. Tomatoes managed to maintain their vigor even later into fruiting. Container plants, honestly, they handled heat stress a whole lot better. And this isn't just hype. It's simply what happens when microbial systems are supported, instead of overwhelmed. So, why does this work better than most of those trending soil hacks? Well, a lot of popular methods are just chasing fast growth. High nitrogen inputs, frequent feeding, constant disturbance. Sure, that builds plants quickly, but honestly, it degrades soil structure over time. Stabilized carbon systems, they build soil first. The plants, they follow. Once soil architecture improves, nutrient efficiency just rises naturally. Roots get to explore more volume, microbes buffer the extremes, and, honestly, water management becomes a whole lot easier. You spend less time correcting problems. That's the difference between seasonal fertility and long-term resilience, and, resilient systems win every season. Bringing it all together for real gardens. Backyard beds benefit because, well, moisture becomes more predictable. Raised beds benefit since carbon loss is usually faster there. Containers benefit because biology is limited and, honestly, needs support. Even hydroponic adjacent media systems benefit when microbial stability improves root environments. The method adapts, but the principle stays the same. Pre-digest organic matter, balance minerals, bury deep, support microbes, and, well, always measure conditions. Soil isn't just dirt, it's infrastructure. Once you treat it that way, honestly, everything changes. Understanding soil biology and carbon cycling isn't just academic, it's practical leverage. When you build stable soil carbon, you're storing fertility, water capacity, and resilience all in one move. That's how experienced growers reduce inputs and increase consistency. If this helped sharpen your approach, go ahead and subscribe and share it with someone serious about growing. Real soil knowledge compounds, just like healthy soil does.